Good afternoon, welcome back. Today I wanted to share this book with you. It's a companion to the Alchemy Journal, and that it's also a tribute to Deborah Harkness's All Souls Trilogy. I got started reading all of her ancillary materials from the website and her recommended reading list about Elizabeth in the Golden Age. So I created this journal using a lot of imagery from that period representing major events, as well as some things that are directly related to the book. A couple of things about the creation of the book. This spine is on a hollow tube created with paper with some faux bands put on it, and the book board is two pieces that are put on in what's called a split board method, where you glue the boards about this far, and then you create a flange out of the first page of the book and slide it into there to glue it down. It's also Coptic bound, and I know there was several questions about my Coptic binding from my previous video. If you do Coptic binding on a book that has an open spine and you open it, you're going to have spaces between the signatures. Apparently that bothered a few people. You can't get away from that because that's where the chain stitch is, and there's nothing behind the spine to prevent it from showing. But if you do the exact same Coptic stitch and you glue the spine and you put a little piece of paper over here, as Nick B does in her videos, then when you open it up between the signatures, there's the middle of a signature, and this is between the signatures. It doesn't spread apart, and there's no gap where you're looking at anything. So I hope that helps. The little clasp here, when I was taking Gian Frontini's Renaissance binding, he was making little clasps, and he made them out of old silver spoons. This is actually the top of the spoon. Then this piece came from in here, and this, this is the leftover pieces. You could probably make another one of these from the bowl of the spoon, flattening that out. John also used forks, and he would use the tine of the fork to create a little nail that he would embed in the book, and could have the clasp coming up and over that as well. I didn't have any forks. This is just one that John gave me to remind me how to do it. But that is something else you can do. The little leather strap here is a braid that John taught us. And basically you take a strip of leather. This one is 3/4 inches wide with the holes at 1 inch apart. The one on this book is very petite. It's 3/8 inch. And the holes are 1/2 inch apart, but you loop it here over whatever you're attaching it to, and then you just start braiding the top. I always take the top one and go through the next hole and pull it snug. I have used this to demo this so many times that it's getting a little wonky. And snug it up. Look under here, find the next hole. Once again, you're going straight down from the top, always from the top. And you will see that it starts making this interesting braid where you have the suede part and the smooth part of the leather both showing. And it can be any width. This would be a good one if you were going to like wrap it around the book. And you could put a hook here in the middle. The holes, you need to have a Japanese screw punch, and I used two different sizes. For the small one I used a 3.5. For this wider one, that's a 5mm hole. And it removes the material with a nice clean hole so that you can thread stuff through it. If you try to just do it with an ice pick or a heavy awl, you get blowout from the material and you don't really get what you want. So let's get into the book. It once again has a leather cover. These are little pieces from Butterbee scraps. The inside has some of my marble paper. This is from the Graphics Fairy site. They have there's a collection, the membership collection called Mythical Beasts, and that was one of the printables. Elizabeth's reign was called the Golden Age. A lot of things were happening during that period in history. The Bodleian was built. There's a lot of developments in chemistry, alchemy. This is the place that she used as the inspiration for Matthew's home. One of the portraits of Queen Elizabeth extracted and put into the Bodleian. This is one of those places where I've used a lot of my own photography. A lot of these backgrounds are pictures that I took in Scotland and England when we visited a year ago. This one has a lot of her letters, including her speech to the troops when they were fighting the Spanish Armada. I didn't even think this one looked like her, but that was supposed to be her portrait. All of these things here that I made kind of an illuminated page type thing are from the Graphics Fairy. Robert Dudley. If you read about Elizabeth, you won't get very far without finding out about Robert and their relationship. A lot of writing space. I'm hoping to take a tour one day and go see all these places that she referenced, and perhaps write about it in here. And Spanish Armada, write about interesting things that happened during that period. Sir Walter Raleigh figured very prominently in the book. The Spanish Armada happened before Matthew and Diana Bishop got there. Picture from Prague with the 3 items they took to Time Walk. And if that doesn't make any sense to you, I know you didn't read the trilogy. Note that Matthew left for his mother to tell him that they had made it safely to England, to 1590. Once again, these are things from the Graphics Fairy, a lot of it. This is the representation, well, this is an actual photograph of the house or building in London that she used as her inspiration for the Heart and Crown, and the landlord there was a shoemaker, but she also had a lot of interesting things to say about Elizabethan clothing. Walter Raleigh. There's another image from the Graphics Fairy. All these backgrounds are collages of various layers of things from the Graphics Fairy. Christopher Marlowe and Dr. Faustus. George Chapman, who translated the Iliad, had a very vast library, wrote a lot of poetry. Henry Percy, another one of the ones that was from the School of Night. Thomas Harriot, who mapped the moon through a telescope years before Galileo did anything, and he also went over to Roanoke and learned, he was the only one that learned the native language. Very interesting man to read about. A lot of things going on at that time in Scotland about the witch trials. I'm still trying to parse that out, why it was okay for alchemists to exist, but witches, no. I guess one was considered demonic and one was just considered scientific. Don't know. This is Bayernigg Castle, where Mary Sidney Herbert, the Countess of Pembroke, lived, and she was a famous alchemist and poet, writer of the time, and she is a character in the book as well. That's her, another portrait of her in her alchemy lab. This was a knot spell that I found when I was studying about grimoires, and they used the first part of that spell in the book when Diana's learning to make her knots. John Dee, very interesting alchemist, philosopher. There's a nice 1-hour discussion about him by Deborah Harkness to the Royal College of Physicians. And that's him in a painting performing one of his alchemical experiments. I'll get it out. Southern accent or not. William Cecil, Francis Walsingham, both important political figures in her court. Then we skip over, and now we're going to the people that she met in Prague, including Edward Kelly, Rudolph, and this is my picture from the castle when we were visiting. And then you go into the Jewish quarter of Prague, and that's the city hall, and she met the rabbi there who, you need to read about the golem. It's very interesting. Bess Throckmorton, that Sir Walter Raleigh married against Elizabeth's wishes, so they were persona non grata. And the place where they supposedly came home to, it's a actual chateau, but they called it Le Revenant in the book, and she came home pregnant, and that's why the cradle. And then there's a little pocket in the back, and I included a historical map of London. So that's the book. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope that I answered some questions about the Coptic stitch. Have a great day.